We're going to talk about adapted performance evaluation as sometimes necessary to unleash the potential of product groups. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Dan Sunny. I'm a Scrum Master currently working at BMW Autonomous Driving Department, which creates our nearest future in cars manufacturing and therefore adopts less huge framework. I'm PSM3, PSPO, CLP, and formerly PMPM software developer. More than 20 years in software development, and from which approximately 10 years with Agile adopting Scrum. Before we proceed, Europe has very strict legal requirements. So according to legal requirements, I must make this statement that all presented opinions are personal opinions of the presenter and do not express opinions or views of his employer. Okay? So let's start. Nowadays, many organizations adopt Scrum or some Scrum scaling framework, and some of them really succeed in this, others don't. Is there any common cause? Let's consider this on an example. On the example of Minions organization. After thousands of years in a rush serving their bosses using traditional command and control approach, they learned about Agile philosophy, adopted Scrum, and enjoyed it very much. Recently, it helped them to launch a very ambitious product, and now a huge corporation was going to purchase their small company. Sounds familiar, right? First of all, let's have a look at how they worked so far. On PBRs and sprint planning, they were fully focused on the whole product, with its customers and business value. In general, they had a lot of constructive conflicts to enable their product owner in making best possible decisions about product backlog composition and order. During sprint, developers considered all their tasks as common. They were keen to help each other, learned a lot, and shared knowledge. They proactively tracked their progress towards sprint goals and kept each other accountable. They had line managers who practiced Go-See and provided mentorship to product group members. On sprint retrospective, all were fully engaged and focused. They were keen to take responsibility for action items and easily entered conflicts, openly discussed most sensitive topics, such as behavior of product group members. They considered strengthening of DoD, for instance, as a matter of priority and regularly. And overall, this event was considered not as a Scrum Master's event, but a great opportunity to improve, hence vital. And they were extremely motivated by their product vision and regular direct from customers. They simply were motivated so that they always did their best, and their salary was just enough. It was probably a little bit higher than the average on the market. Now they joined this new, for them, big corporation, and this company was creating a very ambitious and innovative product called Steal Any Planet. And at that moment, they were creating their MVP called Steal the Moon. Product was extremely complex and innovative, and therefore they decided to adopt less framework. Unfortunately, by that moment, they did not manage to achieve most of their product goals. And management was concerned about this and put pressure on line managers to improve performance using traditional approaches. What was the result of this? In fact, during sprint, developers worked mostly on individual tasks. They were unwilling to help each other or share knowledge. Nobody really tracked progress towards sprint goals. They even didn't manage to follow their own agreements. However, there were no conflicts. Their line managers still didn't have time to practice Go-C. They were very, very busy creating a lot of reports and talking much about individual performance of product group members. On sprint retrospective, people looked uninterested. When decisions were made, it was mostly because of the absence of opposite opinions. For failures, they blamed other teams as low-skilled, but nobody really wanted to raise this, for instance, on the overall retrospective. They didn't have any conflicts, despite the fact that they hardly ever achieved their sprint goals. And the overall retrospective was considered about the same, unless line managers rarely joined. But in fact, their product was really, really interesting to the absolute majority of product group members. However, they did not have direct feedback from customers, and their MVP required really long time to launch. And because of this, their intrinsic motivation, power, decreased significantly. On the other hand, there were a lot of really interesting technical challenges, and developers turned the whole their attention following their personal interests. They left thinking about the whole product with customers and business value to their product owner. Line managers evaluated individual performance of product group members. Therefore, they considered individual achievements. And they used the results of this assessment to stimulate motivation of product group members using various financial and non-financial motivating factors. They really tried to improve. However, with time, the situation even worsened. So higher management put more and more pressure on line managers to improve performance. And finally, line management started considering the situation like, probably Scrum doesn't work. Probably less doesn't work. Or probably our teams are so unique that they just incapable of self-organizing. Probably it's already time to customize the framework. Unfortunately, it was a very strong opinion. However, Scrum Masters admitted that they see a lot of team dysfunctions and behavior of product group members. And they tried to apply all their efforts to improve situation. However, it looked like all their efforts blocked by something. Situation was really complex, and they proposed to use system thinking to minimize the probability of local optimization. And they started system modeling with this goal. They wanted to achieve the higher performance. In their reality, it meant that the pressure on line managers increased. And at that moment, line managers had two major tools at hand. First one is the recognition and appreciation of product group members. And second one, the individual performance assessment. So traditionally, what they did, they just combined these two tools to ensure that recognition and appreciation was dependent on the results of individual performance assessment, IPA for short. In fact, recognition and appreciation for sure impacted motivation of product group members. And finally, it led to the increasing dependency of motivation from the IPA results. In parallel, they tried to identify what was the nature of their approach to individual performance assessment. And they discovered that, in fact, it was completely based on the subjective opinion of line managers about individual achievements. As Scrum Masters discovered, the more was dependency of motivation on IPA results, the more was stimulus for individualism within teams. And the strength of this cause-effect relation was regulated by the dependency of IPA results on individual achievements. In other words, the more individual performance assessment was focused on the individual achievements, the more it led to stimulus for individualism. Obviously, individualism led to increasing number of team dysfunctions. It decreased performance of the whole product group. And here, and going on, with this performance of product group, we will understand the generated business value. Finally, it reinforced pressure on line managers. So, as they concluded, in their reality, in their system, they had reinforcing loop with focus on their approach to individual performance assessment. Obviously, their first proposal was to ensure proper motivation of product group members and get rid of this unnecessary and even harmful process. Line managers even agreed, but raised concern that this process was mandated by their corporate policies. And even if it is possible to get rid of this, it would take probably years. And the situation was already critical. They needed some tactical or temporary solution. So they decided that this is really, again, complex situation, and the best approach is to make experiments, inspect, and adapt. This is what they did. First of all, they decided to substitute their current approach to IPA with mutual feedback between team members within each team. And it was not something abstract, but a structured short list of specific questions based on the behavioral patterns of a great team player. It helped them to create a new cause-effect relation with stimulus for teamwork within teams. However, management, again, was concerned because they didn't have anything tangible based on which they could measure performance. And they decided to introduce additional measurement based on team achievements. Well, in fact, it was simply that each team separately was assessed based on team outputs. We will not touch the point what was this exactly, but in fact, it led to comparison between teams and team against team competition, which ruined completely the whole teamwork between teams. As soon as this was discovered, they decided that, let's try mutual feedback between teams. And they tried it using the same behavioral patterns of great team player. Now they considered all teams as a big team of teams. And it helped them to improve teamwork between teams. And management said, it looks like it works, this feedback thing. And they said that in this case, we strengthen this assessment, adding special feedback from the product owner and Scrum Masters to teams. What they did not take into account that what happened, teams started perceiving product owner and Scrum Masters as a sort of management. Just because product owner and Scrum Master assessed them, their performance, but not vice versa. This is not a secret that self-organization does not really work well with any form of management or seniority level within the self-organizing unit. So finally, it, of course, ruined the teamwork between roles. When they discovered this, they decided to again use exactly the mutual feedback between roles. And in this case, it was based, first of all, on the behavioral patterns of the great team player, and secondly, based on role functions. Simply saying, they took the responsibilities of each role from the framework and gave feedback based on them. It helped them, again. However, management again recalled that they wanted to measure something tangible. And they'd say, okay, we learned the lesson. It's not really a good idea to measure some outputs of separate parts of product group. So it should not be a problem if we measure outputs of the whole product group altogether. And they introduced this additional measurement based on feature velocity. So in other words, they measured the feature velocity of the whole product group. Well, in fact, they got what they tried to measure. The whole product group was fully focused on the feature velocity, which was nothing to say about real product quality, which was connected to satisfaction of customers. And of course, it was nothing to say about technical debt. So being forced to improve feature velocity, teams sacrificed both the product quality and code quality. With time, it led to, again, reinforcing pressure on line managers. Well, in the end, they said that, okay, probably we should measure exactly what we want to achieve. And they want to improve. Let me show you what they want to improve. They wanted to improve their performance, which was the generated business value. So they decided to substitute it with the measurement based on the generated business value. And this system comprised of these 4 balancing loops completed this adapted performance evaluation system. Now let's have a look at this from the process perspective. It was conducted within midterm cycles from 3 to 6 months. And it started with the preparation of midterm goals. This guy in red, this is a product owner. So he prepared, or she, sorry, prepared the midterm goals in close collaboration with CEO of the company and the whole product group. So that by the moment of the official goal setting, the product group would be in full agreement that, yes, this goal is really challenging, but still clear and feasible to achieve. Then, within each sprint, they exchanged feedback between roles, between teams, and between team members. Moreover, all Scrum Masters within the product group comprised a team of Scrum Masters. So they exchanged feedback between Scrum Masters within this team as well. At the end of midterm cycle, the whole product group officially received feedback from the CEO of the company in terms of their achievement of the midterm goals, which were absolutely fully focused on the generated business value. And results of this feedback impacted IPA results of each product group member, including the product owner, developers, and Scrum Masters. Moreover, all this feedback which they received during sprints had direct impact on the individual performance assessment results of each product group member. And there was no other source of influence on IPA results. This is it. One very important notice here is that the major goal was to improve performance, not only measure. So during each sprint, they not only exchanged feedback, but discussed it openly and improved during next sprint, not waiting half a year or a year. This system was considered by these guys as only a temporary solution. And they decided that they will make all necessary and possible efforts to achieve their perfection vision. For this perfection vision, they decided to use as a motto this agile principle. Build projects around motivated individuals. Give them the environment they need and support, and trust them to get job done. In terms of motivation, they decided that in their perfection vision, they will ensure that all product group members are well motivated by their product vision and direct feedback from customers. And in terms of the environment, they decided that they will proceed measuring the performance of the whole product group based on the generated business value as necessary to ensure enough transparency for their continuous improvement of their performance. And they decided that in their perfection vision, they don't have any place for individual, team, or role performance assessment. However, for the period while they were heading towards their perfection vision, for their tactical solution, they decided to avoid any form of assessment from outside the product group except for the assessment of the whole product group. They decided to avoid any sort of functional differentiation between team members or teams. As well, any form of assessment based on achievements or results of individuals or separate teams. Of course, they learned this lesson about one-directional feedback, and they decided to avoid it always. And finally, they decided that whenever possible, they will try to avoid leading performance indicators, such as feature velocity, story points velocity, number of defects, or whatever. Instead of that, they decided to try mutual feedback between team members, between teams and roles. And whenever possible, they will prefer using lagging indicators, such as the business value. Well, these improvements helped them to achieve their first midterm goals. And now even more challenging goal waited ahead. And the first feedback from the product group was that it looks unlikely that they can achieve this goal. When they tried to understand what they can improve to increase their chances, they discovered that there were many other impediments on the system level. First of all, there were concerns about not enough skills and knowledge and capacity. They, of course, tried to consider hiring as an option, but decided this is not really a good option. First of all, well, budget, of course, but not only budget. Even more important, that each new team member or new team would take them back to storming phase. And it would not improve their performance, but decreased their performance for an uncertain period. Additionally, there were many product group members who raised concern about unclear career paths, especially within developers, but Scrum Masters as well. Some of product group members raised concerns about their salary, because less allowed and even stimulated them to rapidly grow professionally. But salaries did not follow this rapid professional growth. And finally, they considered even concerns related to their physical environment and location, which required better fit to their needs in collaboration and teamwork. All these concerns together comprised a very complex system. And they decided that, of course, we need to experiment more. So they had a lot of inspection adaptation cycles, discussions, and this is what they came finally to. They decided that their product group performance, which was the business value generated while adapting to the changing circumstances, was under constant influence from several factors within the product group. First of all, it was about the effectiveness of their own processes, which they adopted and adapted. Of course, it was about their culture with focus on teamwork. Definitely, it was about their motivation to work as a team and to achieve common goals. And finally, it was about their skills and knowledge and capacity. And when they looked at this system and asked themselves the question, is it a complete system? Obvious answer was not, of course. Because there were at least several big clusters of organizational elements which impacted these factors very significantly. These elements resided within the wider organization. They decided to call these all elements residing in the wider organization and having impact on these factors the ecosystem. So, within this ecosystem, they differentiated performance management, which included performance evaluation, which they already adapted, as well all the elements having any influence on their salaries and rewards. It was not part of motivation, but impacted their motivation significantly. On the other hand, they differentiated capability management, which included all those elements which influenced their professional growth. And finally, it was about physical environment and location. And their final conclusion was that in order to unleash the full potential of product groups, their organization, in fact their higher management, must ensure that this ecosystem continuously improves through inspection adaptation cycles, so that the factors within the product group would be under constant maximum positive influence. This is it for now. However, you can always learn much more about the whole this ecosystem at oris.org. Thank you for listening, and if you still have any questions, you can ask. Thank you very much.